Hello, my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today I'm bringing you book news. It has been a hot minute since I have done an episode of book news because of life. So today's book news is going to cover May 11th to May 31st, so everything from the last time I made book news up until the end of May. This will cover all of it. So it might be a little bit more lengthy, but I'm going to try to talk fast. I'm going to use my newscaster voice, and that'll make everything better. So we're going to start with the book forecast, which is the books that are coming up or came out, because this is like a little bit messed up because these books already came out. But it's still the book forecast, but just pretend I'm telling you it, not pretend I'm predicting, pretend it's okay. Pretend that this is fine. Pretend that we're all okay right now, and this is coming to you and you don't know about it. Okay. Everybody, act professional. We're gonna start now. Okay, the first book on the book forecast is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. Oh my gosh, I have this book, I can hold it up. Something Wilder by Christina Lauren is Christina Lauren's newest romance novel. It came out May 17th, and it follows a woman named Lily Wilder who currently lives in Utah, Wyoming, somewhere around that place. Utah, canyons of Utah. And she gives guided tours of this like stretch of land in the Utah canyons, and like runs this like adventure circuit kind of situation with her friend Nicole, where she tells like legends of like Butch Cassidy and like hidden money and like treasure hunts. And then one day she's leading a tour through this area, and her ex Leo is on the tour by mistake, and they're like kind of upset at each other because of their history, and it's like a second chance romance. Very fun. I absolutely adored this book. I give it 5 stars. It was phenomenal. It is very, very different from Christina Lauren's other novels in that it is far more like action-packed, because there is this like treasure hunt aspect to it. So there's a lot of action, and I've heard this actually like a lot of something that people didn't like because there wasn't as much romance, I would say, as usual. It was definitely more action, but I thought it was so riveting. I was on the edge of my seat at certain points. Like, I absolutely loved it, and I thought that it didn't take away from the romance at all. There was still everything that you need from a Christina Lauren romance, but mixed with action-packed fun drama adventure time. Okay, next, I've also shortened the list of the book forecast books that are coming out, books that came out, because I'm covering like 3 weeks because I'm an idiot and didn't film, and so it's not going to be all the books that came out, and I'm sorry for that. Also on the 17th, we have This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. Straub. This is a book that came out on the 17th. I don't know what it's about, but the reason that I added this is because as soon as it came out, I was seeing it everywhere, and it became like a #1 indie bestseller nationwide. Something like that. Let's read the synopsis for This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. On the eve of her 40th birthday, Alice's life isn't terrible. She likes her job. I can't read. She likes her job, even if it isn't exactly the one she expected. She's happy with her apartment, her romantic status, her independence, and she adores her lifelong best friend. But her father is ailing, and it feels to her as if something is missing. When she wakes up the next morning, she finds herself back in 1996, reliving her 16th birthday. But it isn't just her adolescent body that shocks her, or seeing her high school crush. It's her dad, the vital, charming, 40-something-year-old version of her father, with whom she's reunited. Now armed with a new perspective on her own life and his, some past events take on new meaning. Is there anything she would change if she could? That actually sounds very good, and it reminds me of 13 Going on 30. Is that the movie? Mark Ruffalo's in it. You know what I'm talking about, 13 Going on 30? Yeah, it sounds like that. That sounds actually very excellent. I would very much like to read this book. Next on book news, Books Maddie, book news, book forecast. 24th. Moving on, May 24th. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwake Emezi. Apologies if I'm saying that name incorrectly. This is another book that's coming out, which I'm looking up the synopsis for. This one I did know when I was scripting this, and then I forgot it. Fea Edicola wants to learn how to be alive again. It's been 5 years since the accident that killed the love of her life, and she's almost a new person now. An artist with her own studio and sharing a brownstone apartment with her ride or die best friend, Joy, who insists it's time for Fea to ease back into the dating scene. Fea isn't ready for anything serious, but a steamy encounter at a rooftop party cascades into a whirlwind summer she could never have expected. A luxury trip to a tropical island, decadent meals in the glamorous home of a celebrity chef, and a major curator who wants to launch her art career. She's even started dating the perfect guy, but the new relationship might be sabotaged before it has the chance for the dangerous... Oh my gosh. But their new relationship might be sabotaged before it has a chance by the dangerous thrill Fea feels every time she locks eyes with the one person in the house that she knows is definitely off limits. This new life she asked for just got a whole lot more complicated, and Fea must begin her search for real answers. Who is she ready to become? And can she release her past and honor her grief while still embracing her future? And of course, there's the biggest question of all. How far is she willing to go for a second chance at love? That book sounds amazing. Very cool title. Big fan of this title. That was what immediately caught my eye. And also the cover. And also everything about it. And also the synopsis. You made a fool of death with your beauty. Came out 24th of May. Next, we have Hide by Kiersten White. Now, this book caught my eye because I know Kiersten White from And I Darken. Correct? Is this the same Kiersten White? My question is, when will I ever be prepared when I start to film these? You know what I mean? Will I ever be prepared? And I Darken. She did write And I Darken. So now she's moved into adult horror and thriller, which is great. I love when authors cross genres because it's very cool to see how they're... I mean, I've never read from her before, and I probably won't read this book, but I think it's cool to see authors exploring new genres, pushing themselves, and doing new things. Good for them. The challenge: spend a week hiding in an abandoned amusement park and don't get caught. The prize: enough money to change everything. Even though everyone is desperate to win, to seize their dream futures, or escape their haunting past, Mac feels sure that she can beat her competitors. All she has to do is hide, and she's an expert at that. It's the reason she's alive, and her family isn't. But as people around her begin disappearing one by one, Mac realizes this competition is more sinister than she even imagined, and that together might be the only way to survive. 14 competitors, 7 days, everywhere to hide, but nowhere to run. That actually sounds pretty good, and I could see myself reading that if I had to read a horror or thriller. Okay, now we're moving on to May 31st, which is like yesterday for you. If I post this on the right day, it's yesterday. Here are the books that came out yesterday. The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. This is probably the book on this list, except for Something Wilder, that I'm most excited about. I don't know a ton about this book, but I know that it's about this woman who discovers all of these lost words that relate to women, and specifically like lower class poor women, that they've taken out of the dictionary, they've taken out of the vocabulary in order for like those identities to be kind of discounted and erased. It sounds really, really good. The premise in itself just sounds really incredible and important. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Okay, Tokyo Dreaming by Amiko Jean. This is a sequel to Tokyo Ever After. I believe it's about a woman who finds out that she's a princess or either marries into like royalty, something like that. I don't want to like read the synopsis for all of these because I have other things to talk about, so that's why I'm kind of like shortening some of them. And then Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour, I believe, is about a woman who starts working in a flower shop, and then she becomes really close with like another employee at the flower shop, and then like probably there's more that happens. I mean, that's like the worst synopsis possible. But I do have a lot of other things that I want to talk about, so we're going to shorten that a little bit and move on to book announcements, anticipated releases, fun. First, we're going to talk about cover reveals, because there were quite a few cover reveals. First one is There Goes the Neighborhood by Jada Dia. This is her YA debut, and it is about a group of teens who fight gentrification in their own neighborhood in an unexpected way, and it will be out March 7th, 2023. It sounds really cool. It sounds kind of like there's going to be some fantasy aspects to it, which I'm excited about. Fighting gentrification, always good. Next, Lunar Love by Lauren Kung Jessen. This is her debut rom-com, Enemies to Lovers, The Art of Matchmaking, out January 10th, 2023. That one also sounds really good. And then Cassandra Clare revealed the cover for Chain of Thorns. That's all for book covers. Very cool book covers. Very excited for all of those. Obviously not to talk about a lot of them because we have more time to talk about them later when they're coming out. book announcements, these are just things that I've heard about books that I want to share. Okay, Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, coming out September 6th, 2022. I believe this is also around the time that the paperback is coming out, but fun fact, this is also a paperback. The Barnes & Noble exclusive edition is also a paperback, which confuses me because usually an exclusive edition would be hardcover, but I kind of want the exclusive edition. What's exclusive about it? There's a bonus scene at the end with Feyre and Rhys. I know there's one of the editions has an Asriel scene. I don't think this one will have the Asriel scene. I think it will have another bonus scene. But if you want to read the Asriel scene, it's everywhere. You don't have to look that hard. Next, A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to Prayer of the Orange Tree, a book I have not yet to read. Not yet read, because it's this thick, but I do really want to read it. It's epic, it's a matriarch, it sounds amazing, and there will be a prequel that is coming out January 24th, 2023. I don't believe there's a cover yet, but it seems like it's going to be purple from like the artwork surrounding the announcements. So, possible purple cover, it looks like purple and silver. A Day of Fallen Night. A Day of Fallen Night? What does that mean? Okay, because the day could mean that the night has fallen because night is over. How did they come up with these titles? That sounds like somebody had a jar of all the words that could possibly be in like a fantasy novel, and they just picked them out randomly, and they were like, A Day of Fallen Night. That's what it sounds like they did. No shade to Samantha Shannon. Probably has relevance to the book that I don't understand yet, but it does quite literally sound like they just pulled words out of a jar. Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. This has already been announced. People already know about this, but she tweeted about it, and she had used this description, and I thought this sounded very exciting, so I wanted to share about it. She described it as fantasy, that's the Hunger Games, but if the star-crossed lovers were Kato and Clove types, except aged up and Asian. Quite literally, very exciting. I did not realize that I wanted a Clove and Kato novel until just now, and I do want that. So, very excited about that. I believe it's also based off of a Shakespeare play. I care less about that because I freaking hate Shakespeare, so that's all I have for book announcements, anticipated releases, book fun time. Next, we're moving on to author news. This is kind of wild. Pierce Brown and some other authors, but I only for some reason know about Pierce Brown, tried to start an NFT project, which was immediately shut down within 24 hours of him launching it because of how controversial that is. I don't know if y'all remember, but like maybe 2-ish years ago, a bunch of YA authors did the same thing. I think it was like Marie Lu. That's literally the only author I remember. I remember because I heard about it through Marie Lu, so I don't remember who else was part of it, but there was a bunch of YA authors who also tried to launch an NFT project, was immediately shut down within 24 hours. So I don't know why they keep trying to do this, because clearly it's controversial and nobody wants to do it. So author news, stop making NFT projects. Nobody wants to be a part of it. Stop trying to steal our money. Okay, so back to talking about You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. I know we were talking about this book, but Agwaka Emezi curated a playlist for this song specifically, for this book specifically. I'm going to have it linked in the description below. I haven't listened to it because I want to like listen to it while I read the book, but I love when authors do that so much. I love when they curate a playlist, because like, remember talking about Elena Armas was going to curate a playlist for Spanish Love Deception? Elena Armas, I was actually so committed to that. I know you probably tweeted that offhand, but like, I put it in my book news video. Elena Armas, please, where's my playlist? So I love that this playlist already exists. If you read that book, or even if you don't, you should listen to that playlist that they made. Okay, I have like a new segment, which is not a permanent segment. It's just like, I genuinely needed to make this segment because this was such a big, there was so much going on with TV and movie news this month and like within the period of time that I'm making this video. So I made a section called TV/movie news. It's like so freaking original for me to think of that title. So this is going to be obviously all about TV and movie news, but to be clear, it's not just like I want to talk about movie. This is all like book related TV movie news. It's like about books. So 2 more seasons of Heartstopper. in the bag. Netflix producing 2 more seasons of Heartstopper. Big news for all Heartstopper fans. I've not read Heartstopper, but guess what? I watched the first season and I loved it. I cried. Tears of joy and happiness at the end. Beautiful, beautiful season, book, adaptation, TV show. You should watch it if you haven't, even if you haven't read Heartstopper. I mean, I can't personally say that because I haven't read Heartstopper, so maybe, like, you should read Heartstopper first, but I didn't, and I still absolutely loved it and adored it and enjoyed it, and I love it. Very excited for 2 more seasons. Okay, moving on. There's a new TV show coming out June 10th called First Kill. It is a sapphic teen vampire show. It will be on Netflix. You're probably wondering, what does this have to do with books? I don't know any books called First Kill, the adaptation. It's not an adaptation. Get this, though. It is based off of a short story written by V.E. Schwab, author of A Darker Shade of Magic, Vicious. What's this book? Oh, This Savage Song, Our Dark Duet. Literally some of my favorite books. Okay. She wrote a short story. This TV show is based off of that short story. But guess what else? She wrote every episode of this show. If you've never read from V. Schwab, she writes, like, fantastical worlds that are just, like, beyond anything you could have ever imagined. She's an amazing, amazing author. I will be trying out this show because I love V. Schwab. Next, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is getting a movie adaptation. This was the prequel to The Hunger Games, but we have our first casting announcement. Drum roll. Casting for Lena Snow is Tom Blythe. Who's Tom Blythe, you ask? This guy. He was in Billy the Kid and the Gilded Age and The Benediction. I've never seen or heard of these, so I didn't know who he was. He's not at all how I pictured Lena Snow. Mostly because I pictured him as Donald Sutherland the entire time that I read that book. I could not bridge the gap between my understanding of Coriolanus as a very old man played by Donald Sutherland and him being young in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So in the moments where I was able to break through that, I just pictured him as a very white-haired boy. So to have him being played by a brunette is definitely a mental gap for me. It's a mental leap that I need to make, and I need to bridge that gap for myself. Anyway, moving on. Netflix announced that they are making an adaptation of Persuasion by Jane Austen, and it will be starring Dakota Johnson. I have not read Persuasion by Jane Austen, probably won't before I watch this because I do really want to watch it. Love to see it, love to hear it. Okay, and now, the biggest announcement, book and TV news section announcement is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo has officially been picked up by Netflix. I know there was, like, speculation for so long about it becoming a TV show or a movie or something. Finally we have permanent, definitive knowledge that Netflix has taken it and is going to be adapting it into a TV show directed by Liz Tiglar. Tiglar? So very, very sorry about pronouncing that so horribly. But who is that, you ask? The director of Little Fires Everywhere. Have I seen that? No. But I'm still very excited about it because I've heard really good things about that adaptation. Little Fires Everywhere is my child. I trust her with it because she adapted it well, and I've heard it's been adapted well. So I trust her with my other child, which is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, to make it a perfect TV show. My expectations are absolutely way too high and through the roof. I would be terrified if I was the director of that, knowing how much the internet loves The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I personally would be terrified, so let's be kind. Not much more I want to say, so I'm going to wrap this up quickly. The next section is other things that I want to say. And I only have one thing from this, and it's about book banning, which has been so prevalent this year. I believe this academic year is the highest number of banned books ever, like in history. We're experiencing the highest rate of banned books. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of different cases of this going around currently in courts. I know there's stuff going on in Texas and Florida, but the biggest one that I've been hearing about is the one that's taking place in Virginia, where there are 2 Republicans who are trying to restrict access to 2 books. One is Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe, and the other is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is just like the most random book I feel like to try to restrict access to, because there are so many others that I feel like would just be more of a target than A Court of Mist and Fury. There's a lot to say here. There's a lot going on there. I'm actually going to be making a separate video completely covering everything that you need to know and what's going on about this case, because I think it's really important, because there are a lot of overarching repercussions that could happen if this takes place. I think what's different about this case is a lot of the book bans that we witness are taking place in schools, and this is actually taking place outside of schools, where Republicans are trying to restrict access to these books, not only within school districts, but in Barnes & Noble and other booksellers. And so I'm going to be making a whole other comprehensive and cohesive video that kind of walks you through every step of what's happening in this video. I hope that will come out in the next week or so that I'm not covering something that is outdated. I do think it is really important to be aware of what's going on in book banning, because it is so pervasive in our society right now, and it is a huge issue with censorship, and especially this one is I think going beyond censorship, and I'll talk about it more obviously in another video. Next, we have my recommendation of the week, and May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, so I wanted to pick a book that has helped me through a lot and came to me at a time where my mental health was in a rough patch, and like really reoriented my mind and helped me through mental health problems, which I still have, obviously. Kind of pulled me out, man. Okay, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. There we go. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is one of my favorite books. I think it was like number 2 or 3 on my top 10 of last year that I read. It is such a good book. It follows a woman who is just very like disappointed in her life. She finds that she has no purpose. She's not happy with the way their life turns out, and so she decides to commit suicide. And in the places between life and death, she enters a place called the Midnight Library, where she is able to go through each of her regrets and kind of read a book and live the life that she would be living if she had done things different, if she had done something that she knew that if she didn't do, she would regret. And so it kind of covers all of these different potentials that her life could have taken and walks her through every situation that she could possibly be in. And I loved it. I think when you're growing up, especially when you are going into college, going out of college, that kind of transitional period, it's really easy to feel like you're disappointed in the way that your life turned out. It's really easy to think about you're not doing enough with your life. It's easy to get trapped in those holes of thinking, and this book really capitalizes those holes of thinking. It really digs in deep and is like, think about it. I don't want to give too much away about how this book ends, but this is a really good book, and it was very easy to read. I believe I read it in one sitting, and it really reoriented a lot of the ways I was thinking. Highly recommend it. Next, we're going to talk about the addition this week to my TBR. I think this was actually the only like definitive addition to my TBR this week that I didn't talk about in like my book releases, because I wasn't on Goodreads a ton this week, or I guess this month, because honestly this is from the 11th to 31st, and this is like the only one that I added. This came out October 27th, 2020, so it's been out for a couple years. It is called You Are Eating an Orange, You Are Naked. Wild title. I love it. It was what immediately caught my eye, and here's the synopsis. A young translator living in Toronto frequently travels abroad to Hong Kong, Macau, Prague, Tokyo, often with his unnamed lover. In restaurants and hotel rooms, the couple begin telling folk tales to each other, perhaps as a way to fill the undefined space between them. Theirs is a comic and enigmatic relationship in which emotions are often muted and sometimes masked by verbal play and philosophical questions, and further complicated by the woman's frequent unexplained disappearances. This is a short novel. It's 195 pages, and it sounds amazing. I definitely want to pick this up soon. It sounds like a mix of The Vegetarian by Han Kang and kind of like This Is How You Lose a Time War. I don't know, it just sounds like a combination of these like very existential stream of conscious narratives, like that kind of idea, and I love those types of novels. So this is on my TBR. I hope to get to it soon. That is the final section of Book News with Books with Maddie. This edition, this episode, Book News. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything I missed that happened in May that was major that I missed, because it's possible. It's so very, very possible that I missed something huge. So let me know anything that I missed. Let me know what books that came out in May that you were excited to read, that you read, that you loved, that you didn't like. Let me know all the things in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you feel so inclined, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. With that said, thank you again for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a great life. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.